for stream. Just subject stream to watching fucking cooking videos with you.
Are you sure you want me to put my...
Neither do I. They just appear.
Are you sure you want me to put my videos into content suggestion? Because I feel like a lot of them would be appropriate.
I do not know the rules.
Although, before you say, I do know what is appropriate technically.
Oh, then I guess the answer is...
I am a smarter cookie than that.
Well, I mean, like, video length.
Oh, no,
My
no.
cookie crumbled a long time ago.
Oh, no, I always put good length ones, except for those, like, villain, like, Battle of History or whatever it was, but they were really funny.
Oh, the epic rap battles are here.
No, it's the, like, greatest hero of all time, greatest villain, like, in the arena, and had, like, Oscars as the freaking, like, guy that, like, was running it, or something like that. Yeah, that one, yeah,
Ice
yeah.
cream looks so good.
That was long, but it was funny as hell.
The fuck? I don't even know how to pronounce that. Because my brain's immediately telling me to say cheap ass. Chapsalata Ioke? Look, I'm trying to read while eating a concerning amount of ice cream.
Concerning you.
I'm lactose intolerant.
No, I know.
That's one way to fight your doctor.
Yeah. Doctor, you think I have medical insurance? Be out here raw dogging life, my guy.
Alrighty,
Smart.
see you, Cad.
I didn't like where that conversation was headed. The second I heard raw dogging, I was like, let's not go there. Akakaze Yume, thank you for the resub. Appreciate it. Thank you for the 10 months. 1122. Ah. Okay, let me get my tweet out here. Hello, Field. Yeah, I see X does not wish to load. Where did I store last week's art? There it is. Okay, the post is made. I hope chat's ready. You guys know the drill. Do me the favor, go give it some love. Let me get us sauced. There we go. You give love a bad name. All right, the bot is coming online, and I believe we are good to go. Hello, everybody. Hope you guys are doing good today. I appear to be in fuzzy mode again. Give me 1 second. Do not know why camera decides to do this. Huzzah. There we go. Less fuzz. Okay. Should be good. Here is today's artwork. How was chat's weekend? Go give the artist some love. You guys know the drill? And you're to blame, darling, you give love a bad name. Okay, and there we go. Congrats all the comma owners, cries. Yeah, this is definitely gonna be like... I'll have some interesting stuff to say. I think this is like unexpected for several reasons, and I'm not gonna like blame anyone for feeling like, what the heck, right? Wonderful choice on the art today. Yes, no face art today. Only twin moons. I think the YouTube chat doesn't show up in the stream overlay, but hi. You may be right. And that may be because I switched channels. I'll have to think about why that's occurring. Where is it? I don't know. Rest assured, I still see you guys' messages. Also, hello, Kev. The art has charm too, indeed. And Biss, thank you for the resub. Appreciate it. Oh god, I gotta scroll up to the top here. Fuzzy McFluffins, thank you for the resub as well. And Shortcake as well. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. I think everything else was yesterday. But again, I hope everybody had a good weekend. A little bit of housekeeping here. I did find out my extra hours start Monday, so at that point, just be aware, like, we're going into tax season. You guys know tax season's pretty rough on me. particularly the spring version of it has a tendency to be pretty bad. So at that point, I'm just going to tell you guys again, it's entirely possible streams are late some days. It's entirely possible that I end up canceling due to just being busy or tired or whatever. Just, bear with me. It's going to be like this basically until April. That's the problem I have every year. So, welcome to tax season, pretty much. So this is my last week of quote-unquote freedom. It's not too bad. I basically just have to work an extra hour every day, which to me, that's probably the most annoying aspect of it. It really just kills because it makes me so much. It makes me basically have so much less free time, and especially what that really cuts into is my chore time and stuff, like things that I have time to actually get stuff done around the house. Or again, just those moments where I can actually just kind of relax and stuff. So it's definitely an annoyance. I really don't like how we do it in that regard, but it is what it is. It's part of the job, so it's just something I kind of got to do. I believe you already asked me that one, Ice. Tax season so soon already? Yeah, it's just we basically start working extra hours because of the increased demand. It doesn't help either because we have some hurricane extensions from the prior year that are coming due here in February, so it's just a annoyance basically all around. A single asked redrop to make another siege servant, and they replied only if you buff comma. Maybe. He's very much looking forward to it being over. I get you. Yeah, I feel that. In that regard, I've said this to you guys before. It's I'd love to just be a full-time streamer. I don't have the income off of something like this to really support that. But man, it would be so nice to treat this as my job and this is what I work as my 9 to 5 type job, and then I would just be all right, cool, and then I could have the evenings to relax or go and socialize or do something, right? But the problem I have in that regard is that again, basically doing things the way I'm doing, there's no chance of that happening. But God almighty, I prefer streaming to my normal job. Also, are you guys getting any dropped frames here? Because it seems like my OBS is screaming at me that it is. I'm not sure if that's affecting you guys or not. Thanks, and hurricane season, yikes. Hurricane season at least doesn't start until I think it's mid-June. I'm frozen. Okay, I'm not frozen on my end, so. Looks fine for me. Yeah, I mean, the problem I'm having is it looks like it's about 8% of frames are getting dropped. Chat, let me cycle the stream here real fast on the Twitch end at least. I don't know what that's going to do to YouTube because my YouTube piggybacks off my Twitch. Oh, literally right as I said it, it went back to green. All right, I'll keep an eye on it and I'll let you guys know if it starts to happen again. But if it does happen again, I'll cycle and I'll switch servers. Oh, all right, it's happening again, so I'm gonna do it. I'll be right back. Okay, should be back now. There should be no lag or latency on this one. Can you guys hear me and see me perfectly fine? YouTube stayed up. Yeah, I was gonna say it might, like, it's really weird. Your back seems good. Okay. Yeah, like I said, that's just like, it's nothing to do with my internet. It's nothing to do with like you guys' internet. That's the Twitch Invest server. So like, quite literally, my internet's fine, your internet's fine, but the Twitch server that I have to connect to that then sends the video feed to you is where the problem is. So it's like the middleman, basically. And it's really like weird. I never understand like why all of a sudden like one of their servers just starts shitting the bed. But it is something that I've noticed. And thankfully, it is also something that I have over the years learned that trick as to like how to deal with it. Because it's just really odd. And unless you keep your eye on it as a streamer, it's something that like it could just totally wreck one of your streams without you realizing it. Which is definitely weird though, because I feel like as many streams I've watched with other people, I've almost never seen it happen to anyone else. For the dogs are doing good. They've been chilling. They've been enjoying the colder weather we've been having. They've been digging quite a bunch as well, but it'd be what it be. I heard them a bit ago. They were scratching in the cage, so I don't think they're asleep, but they should be sleeping. Classic Twitch, yeah. I mean, again, it just is what it is. Just the threat was enough this time. Listen, it's like I know it'll usually how Twitch and its invest servers work is it just keeps waffling back and forth between perfectly fine, no frames dropped, and then like 25% of your frames get dropped. I don't know why. I don't know how. I just know it is. That's like after years of streaming and dealing with this issue, it's just what I've learned. But yeah, we have the rest of Banner review to do tonight. I actually have some strengthenings I need to do on NA, but that can kind of wait at least until tomorrow, because basically all of that stuff should be up for a little bit here. And the real thing is I basically need to get the Banner review done, because again, we have 7.2 coming Wednesday. So like if tomorrow is just a weird like flex day where we have the live stream and stuff, it is what it is. Which again, we do have a live stream. I'm of mixed opinion due to what they did for 7.1. I'm going to warn all of you guys in advance. If you have not completed 7.1, do not watch the upcoming NA live stream. And the reason why, it is going to spoil you. I guarantee you they're going to talk about the events of 7.1. So just be very careful with that. They'll also probably, as is their sort of go-to thing, they'll probably end up spoiling us a little bit on 7.2. But that's par for the course at this point. We pretty much know they do that whenever they give us like previews and stuff. So it is what it is. But yeah, like that's why I said like a little apprehensive about that stream, because in general, last time they kind of screwed us and they did like the whole like 2-hour long discussion. If they look like they're gonna do anything like that, I am just gonna keep it up on the side of my screen and I'm gonna do something else. I will not sit there and bore chat with 2 hours of that sort of discussion. Like, if it were 2 hours of Michael talking about things, that'd be great. I actually love him in that regard. I think he's somebody that gets it. I think he's really interested in lore. But I'll be damned if I want to sit there and listen to like Albert talk about it like back and forth constantly. That just makes me go like, oh my god, no. Is Tez coming tonight? No. We so again, Wednesday is going to be 7.2. That should be when Tez comes out, and then basically a week later we should get Cuckoo. I 'cause, 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 'c in the sunshine. 2 hours of meandering again? Yeah. And prep for these upcoming banners. Yeah, it's a good idea. Like, whenever we have half-cost strengthenings and interludes, do them. Because, like, I don't know if you guys are like me, but I hoard them. And you definitely don't get them very often with how JP is nowadays. Because, like, I have, like, over 30 of them to do on JP. And JP only has, like, select ones are half-cost right now. Which is stupid. I hate how they've been doing that. They need to just give us half-cost on all of them at some point. Because I'm going to be real with y'all. There are several units that I have on my JP account that I know I practically never use. So I'm not really incentivized to go out and do these strengthenings right now. Sure, if I had to use them, I could pull it in, do it, and go ahead and kind of like solve that. But I hoard them and I just wait for a half-cost thing. But it's a testament to how long it's been since we've gotten a half-cost section that I basically have as many as I do. Residente, thank you for the resub. Appreciate it. Thank you for the 53. How you doing today? Are they half off right now? Not on JP. JP, there's only select ones that are half off, unless I missed a campaign that just recently came out. Which last I checked, I did. Yeah, NA, they're all half cost. And that's why I'm telling you guys, like, on NA, do them, get them done. Because again, like, you don't get very many times going forward where they're all going to be half cost. I have no reason to delay buffs. I have no reason to do buffs. It is really weird, right? Like if it's a unit that I'm going to use, sure, right? Like, for instance, the Kama upgrade that just came out. Yeah, like, that's one that I'll actually do because Kama is one of my more used assassins. But when it comes to, like, I don't know, like some 3-star or 4-star that rarely ever sees the light of day on my account, I basically just go like, nah, I can sit on it. Like, you get rewards for it. I'm not advocating for you guys to never do them. I'm just a patient person, and I will literally wait for a half-cost campaign when I know I don't need it otherwise. It's free Saint Courts? Yep, but free Saint Courts now and free Saint Courts later is worth the exact same thing. It'd be what it be. Black screen with loading in top left while only audio plays? I mean, hey, Jay, listen, that's better than the normal ad viewing experience. Like, think about it. You could have had to watch something. Or you could just already have them done. That's true. You could already have them done. Like I said, I know there are plenty of people that go out there and do them right away. It's fine. If you want to do it, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just how I choose to operate my account. Usually don't let them pile more than 3 or so. It's just 63 AP at worst. Nah, I don't mind. I don't mind letting them pile up because it's just one of those deals where it's like the more that pile up, the more I'm gonna get half cost at some point. And like, for instance, you know, like some of them are half cost right now in JP. Those are the ones I did. I went ahead and like went out of my way and just like said like, okay, those are half cost. I'm gonna like isolate them and do them. That way I don't have to worry about it. I think if memory serves, I may have to do my is it my Dante's one on JP? Or that may be NA. I don't know. One of them is still one of the servers still has it lingering around. I mainly do mine during dead time when I don't have much else to do. Yeah, and I mean, like, when the campaign first came out, that's why I didn't touch it on today, is because we had, like, half-cost stuff. Like, right now, we have half-cost QP, which is insane for me to say this, because this is, like, the first time I've farmed QP in a long time. But chat, behold, like I've been sitting on this for like 2 or 3 days now, and I'm now back up over 1 billion. But I was like down to like 800 or 900 million. So like it's a thing. Like I don't want to like cap out necessarily, but I realized I had already sunk super low, and I was just like, well, let me get a little bit more of a buffer since again I've got like all the LB 7.2 units coming out here. I'm gonna end up using a ton of QP there, and then I'll have to roll the I'll have to roll for like Draco and Tiamat. I don't think I will roll. Well, I will. Yeah, I'll roll Valentine's Day too. So, yeah, I could easily bankrupt myself. Thing is, we have another lotto coming up, so it's like it's not a huge concern, but it's enough where I go like, okay, I should probably take advantage of the half cost right now because I basically, let's see, I've got Tez and Tlalix. That's 2 from Banner 1. Cuckoo, so that's 1 from Banner 2. Gigapope is another 1. Tiamat, Draco, and the 2 4-stars plus Satanta is 5. So I have 9 more units I need to do basically before the next lotto. So 9 units, especially when like an SSR is about like 180 QP, 180 mil. That's spicy. That's spicy. So I probably need to get myself to around the like 1.2 mark, and then I'll probably be okay. Takasugi, I'm not rolling Takasugi. It's just one of those deals where he's a unit that doesn't really entice me, nor do I really need him. So it's just like a free pass for me. Does mean I won't have like CEs for the Chaldea Boys event, but I don't care. Again, even without CEs, you can complete events on Nat AP, so it's not a huge concern. QP cap still 2 bill? Yes. Was first lotto this year? Probably. Well, hold on. Let me see.
Hello?
I literally have like the dev diary sitting on another screen over here just so I can go look at it. Late April, according to this. CBC is a points event tonight, and anyways, yeah. I mean, like, I just chat. Take it from me. If you're smart and you're consistent with your play, you can complete every single event on Nat AP in recent memory. There is only one exception to that, and it was the event that just happened on JP. The actual Phantasm Moon short, like, event. That one was not completable on Nat AP no matter what you did. You had to do the raid. Had to. And if you did not farm the raid enough, you would not have completed the shop. But otherwise, the shop and the event proper, always completable on Nat AP. So it's like, whether or not you roll, it don't matter. Rolling and getting craft essences just makes you more efficient. And the more efficient you are, the more you can, like, full clear a shop. Like, if you want, like, hey, the statues are, like, skill gems or something else, some other little tchotchke thing that nobody ever really buys out of the shop. You could definitely, like, do that sort of thing. That's usually what I choose to do, is I basically say, okay, did I roll? Right? If yes, I basically will full clear. And if no, I will full clear. What do I mean? Well, this is what I normally do. That is to say, I grab all rare materials, crystallized lores, gold foes, the CE for the event, um, again, like ascension materials and everything else, right? Like a full clear, on the other hand, an actual true full clear is like, yeah, I got the statues. I literally got like everything in the shop. I rarely do these, and the way my JP account operates is I only do this one if I have rolled. If I haven't, I always do this. If I remember correctly, you guys mentioned trying to get statues now for class score. It's a good idea to try and get a head start. Yeah. Like if you guys don't have very much of a buffer, if you're not sitting on like a couple hundred statues, it's a good idea to try and get some. Not that you won't get more over time, you will, but in general, that's a just smart thing. Those people don't need statues, embers, and card openers from events, anyways. I would beg to differ on embers. I feel like the embers that you get from events are extremely efficient, and you should almost always get them. Like silver embers, I think there's some debate on that, but again, especially with the state of like mana prisms, if you're not somebody that's been doing lottos from like the early days of FGO, you probably want the mana prisms. Ba-dum-bum. Am I planning to roll the dragon JP is getting? I saw the like slide for her. I haven't seen like did they preview her like NP or anything for us? Because they did that, I didn't see, but CGI Dragon NP, yes they did. Italian Dragon, so cute. Spilled my macchiato. Well, yeah, I mean, it's the anniversary of Dean Stay Night, right? So they have to. I mean, isn't that the best way to honor it? Canonize it? Now chat can't argue and they have to. They have to point to Fate Stay Night, to Dean Stay Night as the starting point. You can't use the dragon against it anymore. She got the maid dragon vibe. That I definitely agree with. Like, she really feels like she could be one of them. Yeah, no, I haven't seen it. Like, do I plan to roll? Just like quite literally based off the timing and the sheer amount of rolling that I have done recently, including an NP5 on JP chat, I'm gonna tell you no. But I do reserve the right to, on seeing the kit and seeing more of the unit, to change my mind. So it'd be what it's gonna be. But again, you guys know I'm not somebody that rolls every unit. I quite literally, like, I wail, but I wail at least how I choose to think about it is like smartly, right? Like I try to be efficient with it. I try to basically measure where I'm going to do things. For it to be another AoE quick lancer. You want to? How about instead of another AoE quick lancer, we give you another AoE quick assassin? Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Is like usually units that don't get rolled on my JP end up getting rolled on my NA. So it's rare for me to skip a unit on both servers, though there have been a couple. Plan to roll in Bisquion. She's pretty cute. So, Chad, is it Bisquion or is it just Bisque or is it like Bichon? I have no idea. Asking for a friend. Also, I want to hear from actual Italians. People that I'm sure know. Time to ask in Italian? Exactly. Like, do I have to say it like with my hand like this? Like, is that how this works, chat? Like literally, I have to have like, you know, like bisquion. That's the only way that you know that it's being said authentically. Oh, I swear to God, if that 90% don't crit. It permanently bricks her bond. I don't know about bricking her bond, but it probably breaks your phone. If you're not moving your hands, you're only at half power. Well, yeah, you have to talk with your hand. This is why, like, I swear my family has to have some Italian blood in us. Because, like, all of the women in our family are, like, super animated with their hands, and it's where I get it from. Like, straight up. I have learned from, like, watching them, and I have, like, over the years with streaming, it's why I do it now. Like, I literally tell a story and move my hands around in inexplicable ways that make no sense, but somehow add emphasis. That's all it is. It's also a teacher debuff. Yeah, I believe that. I definitely believe that. Do a DNA test and see. No, I don't care that much. It's just one of those deals where it's like, God, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. All the animation budget goes to CAD hand movement. Yes. We move our hands while explaining things too often. Yeah, and I think that happens to me too, because I do so much explaining on the channel, right? Like, I end up talking about topics and end up trying to, like, educate. So it's one of those deals where I'm always moving my hands. And like, if you could, like, tell me that I had to explain something without moving my hands, I easily could do it. But if I'm not conscious of it, I will absolutely do it. If that makes any sense. Hello, Blue. Or without drawing using the mouse. Wow, come on. You gotta give me something. No, yeah. Hey, like, could I do it? Absolutely. Part of the reason that I draw with the mouse is I've learned over the years that some people work better with visual, like, stimuli. Like you get it better if I literally, like, draw like I'm drawing on a chalkboard, as opposed to, like, just using my words, right? Hello, King. Why roll the Valentine SSR? Okay, so before I, like, give you any proper reason, do you actually need a reason to roll for Gigapope? Or can you just roll for Gigapope? Because Gigapope. Thank you for the 100 bits. Appreciate it, Wood. I like the drawing with the mouse. Good. I'm glad to know somebody likes it. I'm not entirely insane. Sees Johanna, sees she's cute, has enough reasons to roll. Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, like, in all seriousness, I've noticed that Johanna is actually just a pretty decent tertiary support, as I like to call them. So, like, I like the idea when it comes to support loadouts, especially if you're doing single damage dealer, okay? So single damage dealer, you often have support 1, support 2, and support 3. Okay, support 3 is usually on your back line. You're usually using some form of plug suit. The issue at play here is, like, all right, one of the supports is your actual friend support. The other one is, again, probably going to be, like, a decent enough support. But especially when you start getting, like, bonded out, right? Your friend support is actually your like hard carry support. So that's going to be like in an arts comp, for instance, your friend support's going to be your Castoria. If you're like me and you've already bond 15 your Castoria though, you probably go like, okay, well then what do I do if I don't want to use my Castoria? So this is where like you get some sort of like charger looping facilitation on this character on your skill 2. So or sorry, not skill 2, support number 2. So support number 3 here is then often like the unit that's made to like pick up the slack for whatever the heck the merits of this one were. Depending on the unit that I'm running, if they're a more like usually like arts units, they're going to be very refund oriented, and so I don't have to care, but maybe the node sort of precludes it, and so maybe I need brute force charge support. That can be a thing that basically dictates what these two supports that I'm going to take are. But then simultaneously you might be dealing with a more refund based scenario, and then all of a sudden you're going to take refund-esque units like Nero Bride, Paracelsus, you name it, and therefore that's going to end up sort of dictating what you end up bringing, which then on the flip side then means that you might end up bringing like somebody else as the third support, both to work better with them and cover any demerits that they have, but also to again just be that like synergistic choice. So Gigapope has been a really decent option for that. She can also be somebody that can take out a wave for you in a like dual damage dealer type of setup. So yeah, I like her. I actually think she's pretty decent and pretty serviceable. I've actually been using her quite a bit recently on my JP account, out of all things, just because again she does actually work as a support in that regard due to her looping facilitation. She basically gives party wide charge over and over and over again. So yep. So if you run out of supports at some point, if they're all bond 15, I try to be efficient. I try not to use bond 15 units. But like, for instance, you guys can see right here, this node, it's kind of a piece of shit if you don't use seal. So I am quite literally just taking my bond 15 Koyan. I don't care that she's bond 15. I'm just taking her because it literally makes the node easier. If I try to brute force it and do it some other way, it's a huge pain in my ass. It makes the run super slow, and I really just don't care to do all the extra button pressing. Whereas a lot of the time, yeah, I might be able to get away with it. I'm gonna go ahead and say this. I feel like in this regard, this is maybe one of the few ways that like Quick has a leg up on Buster, because both Arts and Quick have different options, really, it feels like, for this sort of thing. Because again, you have like in Quick's case, you have the multiple Scotties, okay? So you have like OG Scotty, and then you have like Scotty Caster, or sorry, yeah, Scotty Ruler. So this does allow you like at least 2 different units to bond up. Whereas like with Buster, no man, Buster is like quite literally like Koyan Sky system for like, I want to say like 95% of the comps. It doesn't mean that you can't do other things without using like double Koyan Skya. You can, but it usually means you're not going to be able to take advantage of the full power of that then, because you're not going to be getting the doubled up cooldowns, which then means that maybe other concerns come into play. Again, like maybe you need a second damage dealer. Maybe you need somebody else to cover more of the charge. Maybe you end up needing, I don't know, like something else to boost damage, because now all of a sudden you don't have enough damage actually being pumped out of the comp. So that can be a thing. Double Oberon memes? Yeah. Yeah, so for instance, like double Oberon could be one. But that doesn't make it any easier on me because my Oberon's bond 14. So it's like, if anything, I'm trying to baby my Oberon right now. And anything that I don't have to use my Oberon for, I'm trying desperately not to. But yeah, it is the way it is. At some point, I have to do my LB, or sorry, not LB, my Ordeal Call Recollection quests. I will do these with you guys. Because I'm sure chat will forget them before we actually get there, as opposed to the LB7 ones that literally came out, I think like a week or 2 prior to NA getting LB7. So I was like, no, I don't want to touch that because that'll spoil us. But at least not like, I didn't do it on stream. I did it off stream. But those will get done. Let me see, because I don't remember what else is going on here. Okay, so it looks like there's a couple I actually can do this week, including Astolfo Saber and and Ibuki Saber there. Still have to do a couple more. Like these, chat, even though they're not half cost, okay? I will do these like as they are available purely because they are limited time. I don't have either of these two units. And so as a result, like if I don't do their interludes here, they go bye-bye. It's part of the limited campaign. NA is going to start getting a whole lot more of these. So again, it's just something to be aware of. Always make sure if you have something time limited like that that you get it done as is. Yeah, and there you go. Kama gets a new interlude, and Kama literally is half cost right now, so let's go do Kama. I don't see any reason not to. Oh, I choose violence. Lenling buff, yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about Lenlings as well. You know, that being said, I didn't think about this, but a Kama... Is it an interlude or is it a strengthening, chat? I don't actually remember. It's a strengthening? Okay, I'm safe. If it's an interlude, I'm like, man, I'm gonna end up like the last wave here is gonna be like frickin' Kiara or some crap. Hello, Sarah, how's it going? Yeah, usually with strengthenings, they're very straightforward and easy. You can usually just do a one-size-fits-all comp and just laugh at it. In that regard, I should probably switch to a quick comp so that I can actually get bond. I have to think about, like, who would be a good one to run it with. Oh, that's a spicy Lancer there. Not spicy enough, but, you know. It will blend. Wakened Kiara Shudders, yes. But no, that's I've learned not to tangle with interludes. You should always go look at what's in an interlude before you actually go in, if you're not sure. Whereas like strengthenings are usually 333 nodes or 33x at least. So it's usually not too difficult. If it doesn't have 300k HP, it's mid. Well, to be fair, I did that with a neutral damage dealer, right? Well, the fact that it's still cleared pretty cleanly is a-okay in my book. Alright, let's see. Do I actually have a quick comp at the moment? I am surprised. Has it truly been this long since I've used quick properly? Ah, yes! The most appropriate loop against this. Alright, let's test it. Let's see. Have I done her NP upgrade? I haven't. Have I done hers? I haven't. Man, that bit me in the ass right there. There we go. I don't have to do one on this one. Come, Parvati, you're also close to Bond 6. This will work. This is exactly what the doctor has ordered. Yeah, we want Caster in there first. Oh, that's right. That's why I was doing it on the Moon Cancer. It's because again, like with Arcuate, I don't have to swap. And so therefore I can level the new Mystic Code. So I'll probably go back and do that just to prioritize that. That way it frees me up to doing whatever I want. Is he saying FOMO? Should be 3 turns, yep. I think it's the second skill is only the one turn. Bo 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 bo. Hello, Barry. How are you doing? How's your weekend? It's called mid-maxing. If you're trying to do them during half-off campaign. See, I don't think that's mid-maxing. I think that is actually mid-maxing, right? Okay, this is going to be a problem. This isn't going to work anyways, because again, I'm refund-based, and I did not count on it literally being, like, all berserkers the whole time. So this is at least a little bit of a problem. I could try to pre-card some, get a little bit extra oomph out of it, but honest to God, not worth it. Better to just basically just send it, and then like hopefully I can crit down whatever's on the final wave here, but I doubt I get her cards. Okay, it's not too bad. That is though. Okay. She'll be able to NP next turn, but she will not have... She will not really have any actual firepower because all the buffs will have worn off. I will have the defense down, I will have her second skill, and I will have the Mystic Code attack up. But, well, that hurts the odds of that even more. Alright, we do at least have a Brave Chain. That'll help me out. Oh, double turds. I used the original plug suit. It's really all I can do. Try to pre-card with the Buster. This is... Since I don't have a Mighty Chain, I have to think with old carding rules, not new carding rules. Super Reiko Quest looks like a joke now that I have NP5 Draco. Oh good, that sounds amazing for me. Now that I also have NP5 Draco. Yeah, again, like, I haven't really found any of the Ordeal Call content to be too hard. Most of it has been pretty easy. Like, I'm not worried about anything so far in it for, like, Saberface only runs. Maybe Ordeal Call 2, but that's just because it has a very specific gimmick. But that gimmick is probably not going to be a problem because of my account. So at the end of the day, I just go like, well, whatever. Oh, thank God it didn't immediately go in. I was gonna say that is not what I wanted to select. I wanted the button. Yeah. Let's just go back. What I get for trying to be cheeky. Protocol 3 fight was annoying, but it's doable. Oh, 3 fight. I mean, I don't specifically remember that fight. I'm gonna assume I probably mopped it up with a ruler. A particular ruler at that. MPs after each break bar. That's not a huge problem. The biggest problem I can face with like Saberface is buff strip. And even that's not impossible for me to overcome. It's just really annoying. It really depends on what they're doing with it. Oh, it's a 2 out of 2. Sweet. I just get to go balls to the wall. Not really worth popping that. Just do it like that. Or Solemn Defense Pierce. Oh, that one. Okay. You meant the actual final fight. Yeah, that one may be interesting. I mean, I still interestingly enough, my strongest ruler has a like the actual counter to that. So like I don't know that it'll still cause me that much of an issue, but it will be problematic, I'll say. Sometimes the enemy killing your front line is even beneficial. Exactly. Oh my god, I'm tired. I did not get the best sleep last night, chat. I was up a little bit later than I intended to be. And then on top of that, I don't know if you guys have ever had it, but like, do you ever have like one of those just like restless nights where like you just toss and turn and you never like actually fall asleep? That's what last night was to me. So like, it's really funny. Like, if you see me like close my eyes like this, it's literally me resting my eyes. Like, mentally, I am completely awake. Eyes, they're like done with this shit already. They're done with this day. They wish for no more. I don't know why. It is the way that it is. Ugh. I had one yesterday too. Yeah, it's really weird because I don't normally get those, but man. If you hear me yawning, that's why. I'm sorry. Does that say Shiro? God damn it, Ash. Shiro. The Caesar laugh from One Piece. Eye drops? Yeah, I mean that might help, but I don't have any. Which is really funny because like I've had people before be like, "Wait, why don't you have eye drops?" And it's like, why would I need eye drops? I don't know. I like one of the things that I've been, I guess, blessed with is like I don't seem to have any vision problems. I never have. And so it's like I've never had like any need for them. Have you tried power napping? I have sometimes. Ugh. I think like what it is like right now, like so I was actually drinking the last of the eggnog that I had from the holidays. And so it's like again, that's like dairy, it's nice, it's filling, it's thick. And then like I'm also like in the streamer room where like right now there's like pretty good airflow from my computers underneath, but also like it's warm because I have all the lights on me. So I have both airflow and I'm warm, so I'm in like perfect comfort. And now I'm just like I could literally just like take a nap. And like my body knows it. My body absolutely knows it. That's why I don't want to. Because if I take a nap, I'm gone. I am gone, man. Solid gone. One day you might need glasses, probably. I don't rule it out as like ever right, but it's one of those deals where if I do end up needing glasses, it'll probably just be due to age. Which it is what it is. Like I don't have a like and I'll be honest with you, I'd probably 10 out of 10 times rather wear glasses than wear contacts all the time. But we'll see. I don't like the idea of like having to constantly like fiddle with my eyes because I don't like having my eyes touched in any way. Didn't you fall asleep one time on stream when you were sick? I've almost fallen asleep a handful of times, but I've never like actually fallen asleep on stream. I've left stream on. That's been a thing, but I've never properly fallen asleep. I can't wear contacts, yeah. Stigmatism caught up to me. Ugh. Yeah, I like it's really weird though too because my brother is the exact same way and I have no idea why. Like again, when I say like I was blessed, I really do mean that. Like cuz just about everybody else in my family wears glasses. My father, my mother, and my sister have all worn glasses basically since they were young. Me and my brother, nope. I don't know what happened, but like we both, neither of us need glasses, and he's older than I am, so it's like I don't get it, but it just is the way it is. It's like we got the lucky gene somehow. So it's like I assume it's a like it's probably from one of my like one of my grandparents or something. Is anyone in your family colorblind? Not that I know of. Oh, I'm sorry. Here, let me finish this. I'll start drinking water, and that'll stop this incessant yawning. Mm. Yeah, because it's also like that's just kind of like it's warming up as it's getting closer to room temperature, so it's like warm liquid. I love eggnog. It's one of those like drinks that I'm not saying I would like drink it all the time, but I wish that it wasn't a seasonal drink because I would certainly drink it more. Ah, there we go. Yeah, the cold water. Trubs has fallen asleep a couple times. That I'd believe. I would definitely believe that Trubs has fallen asleep. And the reason why is because, like, knowing what I know about Trubs, Trubs works long hours. Trubs does not get enough sleep. I could absolutely see him falling asleep on stream, where he's like, "Oh, I need to push myself to stream," and then he just ends up like dozing off. Needing them to read and to drive. Interesting. Yeah, like at 47, like I'm gonna say like, damn, you had a good run at that point. Like if I can make it to 47 without needing glasses, I'll consider myself lucky. Wait, why am I? Okay, there we go. Yeet it right in. What does Trubs do for work? He works well, I don't know that he actually would want me to say directly, but he works retail to a degree, so he basically his hours suck. Though part of that is because of his own like choices. So like he's basically like asked for essentially like graveyard shift because that way he allows himself the capacity to be able to like take off to cover the live streams. Like I gotta say this, like it's one of my least favorite things about FGO is the fact that the like content updates come out at like 4 a.m. It really freaking sucks. Because it's like there's always going to be a degree of like just being first, and I will never be first because I'm not staying up until that time. Ridiculous to me. So it's like no, I'm good. I'd rather go to sleep. Cover it the next day. See what everyone's saying, get the benefit of hindsight on it, rather than like having to knee jerk react to something. Because there have been times that like I've seen something and my initial impression has been wrong, and chat's never seen it. Usually because like my initial reaction, I understand as my initial reaction. Sometimes it's absolutely spot on, but sometimes there's something I didn't consider or think about, and so like the benefit of like talking to other people or like seeing seeing the unit in action and like actually testing it, that can be like the difference in a lot of things. So Nobody count how large that means my family is. It's common here. Hey, it is what it is. If you have a large family, that's nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I'd say that's awesome, right? Like, I'm sure there are people out there that would love to have a bigger family. These, like, for instance, chat, behold all the upgrades I haven't done. Now, the two saber faces here are going to get done, but that's because, again, saber faces. And you can see at one point I started the melt upgrade. But I haven't quite done Melt's upgrade yet. What's half cost? Is it still half? Okay, it's still half cost embers. So yeet us right in. Looks like we're on our last day of it. How was my Mystic Code coming along? Jeez, my Mystic Code's already ranked 7. This Mystic Code, like, and honestly, it's actually kind of going a little slow. The second I get to like a like 90 plus plus node or something like that, if I can run that Mystic Code on it, oh Jesus, I will complete that so fast. And that may be what I'll do, is like whatever the next event is on JP, I will just take my sweet ass time with it. Event Mystic Codes be that way? Yeah. Yeah, I think the only downside to having a large family is then, like, as you get on into the later years, like, you know so many of them, and, like, everybody starts to have, like, problems, right? Because, like, as people get older, they just do. So it's like, it naturally can be, like, a huge drain if you let it be. I know, like, that's kind of the way my dad was with his family, because he had a pretty large family. And so, like, there's a point where you just kind of have to turn inward and say, like, well, this is my family now, like you know, here's my wife, here's my kids, and then maybe like the very close immediate family, and just like, it is what it is. Like, I don't have time to deal with other people type stuff, because otherwise, yeah, I feel like that sort of thing can just drive you bonkers. It would take like 9 million. Yeah, which is wild, because it's like, you start looking at what is it, like even just one of the later levels of the higher Mystic Codes are like, oh, it's like 10 million for one level. And it's like, that's the entirety of that Mystic Code. So it's just like, holy crap. All right. Now we got our AP done. That actually took longer than I wanted it to, but it was what it was. Again, this is kind of why I didn't want to do half cost stuff. At least not like, you know, the Ember Gathering or anything, but like the actual like strengthenings and stuff. Because again, like, yeah, I can complete it, but it takes me like freaking forever just because it's half cost. So that sort of stuff is best done like off of Twitch. I believe, yeah, we left off in November for that, but first we have to talk about things. Yeah, chat, in case you were curious, here is the week 2 Saber banners. Sorry, I'm just looking at stuff on the side here. So this was the new event as well. This was the commercial for it.
新入社員として立派なドラゴンへとがむしゃらに成長しちゃいます。フェイトグランドオーダー育てマイリトルドラゴン。私はカルデアに憧れていました。一緒に旅がしたいのです。
Yeah, it really feels like what they're trying to do with this is like give you the actual like Dragon Maid look. Because I feel like that's exactly what like this face and everything is. And then I feel like I like, don't take this the wrong way, chat, but I struggle to call this like any one reference, because this to me, the girl in the like Japanese schoolgirl sailor outfit with a katana and dark hair is such a like overdone like thing at this point that I can't just say like, oh, it's this character, because there are so many characters that fit that description. So it's really funny that it took them like this long to actually get one. It's more of an archetype. It absolutely is, yeah. So it's like, not that I think it's a bad archetype at all. I've already seen people like obsessing over this character, so it is what it is. Average student council president character, pretty much. But yeah, so like that's they announced the event, and you can see they added Kurohime and Bishon to it. So now we have Kiyohime and Kurohime are going to be our two. Yeah, so is it Bishon? I don't know. I'm gonna butcher that name, and I'm sorry in advance. But yeah, this is also this will be coming out quite literally the exact same day as well, actually no, this may be Thursday for us, because it's late Japan time. Well, no, sorry, this will be early Wednesday for us. So this will literally be the same day as 7.2. So when 7.2 comes out, we'll also have the new JP event. Is that French? Italian, I'm told. Like 4 a.m. on Wednesday, yeah. Again, there was that. I at least had the 4 stars there. They put, that's odd, but whatever. There are no... No 4 stars on raid, or sorry, no saber faces on raid up, other than Lakshmi and Okitan Saber. And now that Okitan Saber's a pin situation is fixed, I'm more okay with Okitan Saber, so I don't have to do anything on that end. Wait, why do I have Cuckoo open? I think that's from yesterday. Or Friday. Okay, and then we had the 2 buffs. Here we go. Yeah, it was this. Okay. So, dealing with Landling here. It's really funny, because, again, like, everyone's going to talk about the comma buff and everything, but this is actually a pretty good buff for Landling. I really do like what the devs did here, because this addressed one of the, like, to me, most annoying aspects of Landling. And that was that Landling had a kit that was stupid, in the sense that it was designed around giving himself buff success chance to be able to get the most out of it. However, the entire, like, to me, premise on bringing Landling to a node is because he can give someone buff success chance. I never understood why they designed him that way, where it's like, oh, he needs it, but also the whole reason for you bringing him is to give it to someone else. It's like, I never understood why they did that. It just felt like such a stupid thing. So the fact that this was a 1 ally charge and 1 ally buff success rate for 1 turn, I like, again, I'm not going to say Lenling's a bad unit, but this just was so ass about it. It's like, it's not like these effects on their own are bad. It's the way that like this worked in comparison to, again, like, oh, he's got chance-based skills, right? He always had that self-invincibility, that party attack. So he definitely was nice. But again, like, now they've come back in and they said, hey, you know what? Let's buff him. He's not probably getting enough use. Let's actually give him some love. Here you go. So now his 20% gauge is now 30%. It now increases party buff success rate for not 1, but 3 turns. So they not only buffed the duration of the skill from 1 to 3 turns, but they also made it party-wide. This is a complete, like, 180 on whatever that stupid original design was. They just literally said, like, you know what? That is ass. Let's actually change it. And then now he has a crit star bomb of 20 there. So again, this really does make it better because it actually is going to mean that all the effects of his 3rd skill are going to apply. Which, it's not like the effects of the 3rd skill were, like, stupidly strong anyways. So I never understood why they did this. It just was, like I said, like a flawed design. It was a bad implementation. I think they thought that, like, oh, well, we need to, like, restrict him somehow so that he can't just, like, be this most amazing thing. But again, it's star gen rate, which is nice on its own, but it's only 50%. It's not like Gil's 100% or something that allows people to, like, just absolutely shit stars. It's going to be half of that. So it's not like it's the most, like, OP thing anyways. And then party-wide crit damage, which at this point, I'm sorry, but, like, everyone and their brother has party-wide crit damage, it feels like. So I don't really feel like that was that, like, scary of a thing. Maybe back then it might have been, but again, it just is what it is. So giving him this, now it allows him to solve the issue with his 3rd skill. They don't need to upgrade his 3rd skill as a result of this. And instead, he can now also do that and give it to someone else still. He can still give them buff success chance. Therefore, again, like, any RNG skills that they have are going to be, you know, not missing as a result. So yeah, this is just an all-around good buff for Lenling. I really don't have too much I have to say about it otherwise. It will improve his usefulness, and it will just make him a more usable character as, again, a sort of, like, unique or rare, like, support character. And then we get to Kama. Oh boy, do we get to Kama. So, okay, just a brief overview on Kama for those of you guys that don't remember. Obviously, she has the HP reduction. She has the overcharge in her kit. And again, her overcharge effect on her NP was already a multi-turn scaling quick up. She recovers her own HP as well with this skill. Her second skill had always been the unexpiring guts. Again, there's no duration limit on it, so it just will literally stay there until it's popped. Again, also with the attack up for 3 turns of 30%. And her third skill has always been pretty much her claim to fame. It's her 50% charge, which sets her out already just different from most of the other single target assassins. And then also the ability to grant her advantage against alter egos. When this came out, she was the first unit in the game that even had something like this. It was definitely a really, really nice thing for her to have. And still to this day, it does make her quite a nice alter ego counter. Obviously, the issue is going to be if you can't, like, 3-turn the enemy, then, because if it wears off, then you're a sitting duck for an alter ego as an assassin. But again, the fact that it was an actual true counter was really good at the time. And then the critical damage for herself, as well as the charm debuff resistance for 1 turn by 40% there. Now, again, the passive skills being what they are, the big thing to obviously denote is she herself is charm immune. And again, you can see she does get some additional resistances throughout the rest of it, but nothing too much to write home about. Now, with the original version of her NP, it was a 10 hit single target quick NP. It dealt damage to one enemy and had an 80% chance to charm them afterwards for one turn, with the increasing quick performance up for 3 turns of 20% base. This is where popping the overcharge effect on her turn 1 didn't really matter because you were getting 3 turns of quick up. So if you got, again, like higher ranks of it, who cares? It was going to last 3 turns anyways. So popping it early meant you were going to get the benefit, as opposed to like if she had actually had a 1 turn duration on this could have been a problem. So I do think that's a thing that the devs kind of kept in mind, and it's one of the ways in which she was designed a little bit more intelligently. Now, as you can see, she ends up getting an NP interlude. And based off of that, again, you can see now she has an 80% chance to charm activating first. So before, when she had this, it was after damage. Now it's pre-damage. And you can see she'll then deal increased damage to one enemy, up from the 12,000 now to 16,000, and then deal super effective damage to enemies that have charm status on them. Now, this is an interesting thing because she's not guaranteed to land this charm. However, she may as well be, because again, there are numerous ways that you can go about this, but the charm resistance for 1 turn at least on her 3rd skill does mean you're going to be pretty consistent at landing this. It's 40% charm resist down to the, again, 80% chance that you're missing, unless the enemy has got some pretty robust magic resistance or they're just charm immune. You can expect this to land, again, the majority of the time. I'm also going to say that, again, this is just one of those deals where you're just going to have to watch out for those sorts of scenarios where, like, it can't apply. And as long as you do, you'll be perfectly fine. If the boss has debuff immunity or something like that, at that point, just understand you're going to be back to not quite old comma numbers, still a little bit better, but certainly it will not be getting the super effective modifier on there. So similar to like Arjuna Altar, as long as you can land the debuffs, it's pretty much guaranteeable damage. And in this case for Kama, I think it's pretty darn close to it. It is what it is. I think, like, talking about this in general, I have seen a lot of like negative reactions to it today. I'm not really sure why. And the reason I say this is I do understand. I do agree. It is overkill to an extent. However, I think the better way to look at this is from the grander context of this is just how FGO is now. Okay? What do I mean? Well, for instance, let's actually start by looking at some damage numbers. Okay? So here is Kama and her new damage with self buffs only. So you can see 58k there normal, but with the charm, we're up to 87k. This is strong, okay? And I really want to be clear on that. This is one of the stronger single targets in the game strong for just raw output. Now remember, self buffs only means it's not effective. This is neutral damage numbers. This is not including mystic codes, craft essences, or support casters. It's literally just Kama, literally just her own skills. 87k is strong. Okay. Now, here is Kama's actual, again, one-shot damage. So this is just 1 turn. You can see this is her in an actual effective comp. Oberon, Black Grail, Double Summer Scotty. You can see pretty nasty numbers now. These are still neutral too, which means that if you're actually up against an alter ego or, again, a writer, dear Lord, she is going to just absolutely annihilate them. The thing to keep in mind is, again, that the charm and the charm resist on the 3rd skill is just 1 turn. If you're trying to 3 turn, at that point, then be very careful when you use the 3rd skill, because it means that your damage will be less consistent without that and more consistent with. Thing is, there is also the counterplay of simply pre-carding with a charm command code equipped to one of your cards. There are not enough charm command codes to fully complete your deck, to my understanding, but it is one of those deals where, look, you can still equip them, and if you get it, you get it, and then at that point, boom, there you go, you get even more, right? So it is a lot of power. The thing is, and again, this is why I say, like, understanding this in context, chat. If you think this is bad, behold, Melt. I said this back when they buffed Melt. People were leaping for joy that they buffed Melt. And I said it was a problem that they did because of the pressure it was going to put on other units. So if you didn't complain about the Melt buff, you cannot complain about the Kama buff. Like, literally at all. Because again, even if we look at this, yes, I'm comparing this to an NP2, but this is an alter ego, chat, as opposed to an assassin. Now, the ass actually is one of the 7 base knight classes and has a proper effective counter. Melt, as an alter ego, while she does have that going up against foreigners are not that common. And this is why alter egos, just like pretenders, have the entire cavalry triangle here that they are 1.5 times effective against. Pretenders have it against the knight classes. So, again, something like this, yeah, NP1 at 1.5 times this is some pretty disgusting damage, chat. Actually disgusting. And this is more than most other single targets in the game can pump out. Them buffing Melt to be that strong, I understand people want Melt to be strong, but it makes zero sense to have an alter ego just actually be stronger than the 7 base classes, particularly the cavalry the cavalry triangle classes. Okay, they should have the capacity to outpunch Melt in a 1v1 fight. So her getting that buff, yeah, it makes Kama strong. Absolutely. It absolutely does. But should there be an assassin that is stronger than Melt? Yes, unequivocally. There absolutely should be. To me, this is why I say it's like, it's not that it's actually that crazy in the grand scheme of things. If you guys remember, we had a similar reaction when Musashi Saber first got an NP interlude. And everyone went like, what the shit is that damage? Same deal. Quite literally, you actually need a single target Saber to deal decent damage. She is strong, don't get me wrong, and it is a thing, but this is the level of like power scaling and power creep that we're at now. They have made units so strong that, chat, if you want them to keep pace, y'all best get used to this in a good way. All these buffs that are going to start coming out are going to start looking this way. They're going to start being pretty insane buffs for some of these units because they kind of have to keep them up, to keep them relevant, to keep them actually, like, again, holding their own against some of these other insane extra classes that have gotten buffed here down the Ordeal Call stretch. It is what it is. I think the better argument should not be, why would they why is this such a strong buff? That's a shit argument. The better argument is, why Kama as opposed to any other single target assassin? That I agree with. I do not believe that Kama should be this strong. And the reason why is that Kama absolutely just has an insane kit. Always has, always will. And pretty much, I've had people ask me before, and I've said this, that like, look, if I can only have one assassin, which assassin am I picking? Like, you know, taking Saberface bias out of it and all that stuff, and just looking at this purely from a gameplay perspective in a vacuum. If you're telling me I can only have one assassin for like all content, farming, again, like at least single target, I'll say. Farming, challenge, you name it, right? If I can only have one single target assassin, I'm picking Kama. Okay, some people would probably pick like King Hassan. Other people would probably pick, I don't know, like Old Man Lee or something like that, or maybe even Jack. But honestly, Jack could absolutely use the upgrade now at this point. But Kama just had the whole kit. Kama had good staying power, good survivability, and Kama also had 50% charge. And that's why. That's basically why I'm surprised by this. It is, again, because she's getting a banner. It is a good time for them to do it in that regard. I don't blame them. But I am surprised that they chose, out of all of them to make this strong, Kama. So, is it a problem that they've made Kama this strong? Only if you're one of those other assassins. But is it the end of the like the world if Kama is this strong? No, because again, like Kama needing to be stronger than Melt is a thing. That being said, and I hate to say this, but if we look at the assassin list here, and again, these are neutral numbers, but you guys can see this is basically the issue. Assuming that we can essentially like guarantee that charm for at least a singular NP, yeah, we have a gap here. An absolute gap. You do have, like, again, other niches that can kind of come into play and allow for a little bit more damage, but yeah, the Kama charm there is a thing. So it is what it is. I'm not going to get that upset about it because at this point, yeah, I'm sorry, we have some actual monsters in the game and the developers need to start buffing people to be stronger than them. I know people refute that, people argue with that, and usually it's because like, oh, that new unit that came out, they like hyper invested in that character, or they just really like that character, and that's why they want that character to be strong. So they're arguing in favor of the really strong character they just pulled continuing to be the strongest. Whereas I look at this as it's not good for the game's health and for the developers' own wallets if they just make one unit be clear and away the strongest and there's no parity amongst the units. They do need to achieve some level of balance, some level of symbolism of at least attempting that balance for that attitude to change. And I have to admit, but over the last 3 years, there has been no semblance of balance. It's all been power creep. So the fact that we have started to finally get some buffs, the fact that we are starting to see other units begin to challenge that status quo is good. It's good for the game for them to do that. Because I think the developers are beginning to even realize themselves they bit off more than they could chew. The primary reason that people are going to roll for characters at this point, especially if you're a more veteran player, is whether or not you like the character. At the end of the day, making all of the characters good and, again, competitive is a good idea. It's going to allow people to use their favorites, no matter who those favorites are. It's going to increase their enjoyment with the game. And I've been saying this, I've been championing this for years now, because, again, this needs to be a thing. But basically, we do have people that push back against this and try to say, like, no, it doesn't, because, again, my favorite is on top. I'm sorry, but shit's got to change. It just is the way it is. Okay? It's the only thing that will be good for the game in the long run. Sure, in the short term, you're never going to achieve perfect balance. There's always going to be inequities. There's always going to be one character that's stronger than another. But dear Lord, what we have is, instead of a lineup like this, chat, where we have units in a tight pack of relative performance, what we now have is this. And it's like, oh, what the heck is this? Well, this unit's absolutely shitting on all of these other units. And then this unit's like, it's pretty good, but they still are absolutely trounced by that big meta unit. And then all of these, yeah, nobody rolls for these anymore because they're bad, quote unquote. Like people think that they're bad and they're like, I'm not gonna roll. They're not in a good spot. That sort of stuff. So again, like, I'm gonna tell you that's of the dev zone making. You guys know I will always try to teach you how to like appropriately use the units, how to use them effectively, no matter who the unit is. But you know, not pulling punches here. Yes, they have let a good chunk of the roster languish and fall way behind. That's got to change. And that's again where I'm going to say, comma buff. It's insane at face value, but it's actually not that insane the more you dig into it and the more you look at some of the other stuff. The only insane part about it is that it actually is comma that it happened to. Some ass enjoyer's been waiting literal years. Yeah, no, and like in all fairness, like I agree. I feel like each of these units deserves their time in the sun, and some units have never had it. Needs to be more buffs to level out the playing field. I'm gonna say this. I am cautiously optimistic that that's the case, because that is how they've been doing things. So let's see. Hopefully, as they move forward into 2025 here, we start to see the same like rate of buffing that they had been doing. If not, I'll call them out on it again because the game absolutely needs it. The roster has expanded so much over the years. They absolutely have to be doing more and more and more and more and more buffing in order to keep up with it, especially due to the status of how they've done things. And I'm going to say this again, like if you have this, right, and you release a unit over here, this causes major problems for that pack. But if you release a unit like right here, it's not that big of an issue. And then like at worst, you need to pick up the end unit and move them here. But like, God, at that point, it's even further to pick up the front unit and move them to here. Like this is the problem. It's not that they're power creeping. Power creep is inevitable. It's by how much they have power crept with new unit releases. That's their biggest issue. They don't really need to power creep as much as they do, but they've chosen to because I guess somebody like behind the scenes goes like, well, I want the unit to be strong. And it's like, well, it works. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Like, of course, yeah, it's good to get everyone to roll for it, but like, I don't know that's smart long term. In order to get short-term gains, they end up doing a lot of long-term work. On a positive note, we got 3 buffs already. Yep. Hopefully they keep it up. So like I said, I'm not super worried about them like updating the roster at the current point in time. However, I do want to see them picking up that back end. Okay. Like I'm going to give you guys an example. Let's take like Mellison Lancer again. Okay. So if we look at Mel Lancer kind of just is ahead of like the rest of the Lancer pack for AoE. So who needs a buff? To me, not Erish. Not Roma. Right? Like those two are the closest to her. They need to start looking beyond those two, deeper into the pack and say, who can we bring forward? Like who actually like needs this upgrade to be more relevant? Because the other two are still reasonably fine. But good Lord, right? Like they've got to do something about this. And I think I can take that situation and I can apply that to multiple other classes, multiple other units, where I can go like, whoa, that right there, that is really strong. Let's make something else equally as strong. It's the concept of like, if you guys have ever seen like Indian running, right? Where like people are running in a row, and then again, like the back person basically like runs up to the front, and it treadmills over time. It's exactly what they need to be doing. Exactly how they need to be balancing. So that nobody is ever the shittiest forever. Nobody is ever last place permanently. At some point, they're always in the lead, or they're always competing for that like top spot. I think that's the better way to do it. And I think like this assumes certain things are in place. So like for instance, I'm not talking about 4 stars here, chat. I'm talking specifically about 5 stars, okay? Like I'm talking about comparing like relevant 5 stars. 4 stars are themselves their own problem, and I believe like for instance, if you look at like Salter for the Sabers, she is way too strong compared to every other 4-star Saber. Okay? So something probably needs to be done about that. So it's like I would look at it in the brackets of like this is your rarity. That's how I would choose to approach it. And it doesn't mean that you can't have a 4-star knocking on the door of the 5 stars. I think that's fine, but they need to again like, well, that's the strongest one. Now let's pick up the weakest one and move them forward. And I do think there's still room for there to be, again, like imbalance, right? Like, so the idea of like, let's say, should like Gareth Summer ever be stronger than Salter? I think there's a good argument for no, that should never be the case. But should Gareth be literally getting like dumpstered by Salter? Probably not. Like the fact that Gareth is that far below Salter's damage output, that's where the issue lies. So it's like, if you want Salter to kind of be the strongest over time, I'm okay with that. But holy crap. I thought Salter smashed right through the door. No, Salter is quite literally the strongest AoE Saber right now. Like 4 or 5 star. So that's like, again, that's how I choose to look at it. NP5 4-star being on the level of like an NP2 or NP1 like 5-star to be fine. Yeah, I agree. I think that's perfectly fine. And the reason I say this is because this also ascribes to the old mentality of like NP2 kind of being like the enthusiast like SSR get, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm not sure NP1's enough. Maybe I get NP2. So it's like same deal. If you're trying to do things on a budget, getting like an NP5 SR should also be like an equal equivalent. Right? So like I like that. I like that balance. And then we had this idea that like both of these can be used in like high-end nodes. But we're in this weird spot where it's like the vast majority of the roster cannot actually do like 90++ content. And I think that's an issue. Like, that's how I choose to look at this chat. Over time, content in the game will keep progressing. Again, we have 90 star and 90 star nodes. That's fine. They want to add that, go for it. How do you feel if you're a 3-star and you're looking at that 90 star node? How do you feel if you're a 4-star and you're looking at the 90 star node? Like, I'm not going to say you can't do it, but I'm going to tell you that the vast majority of them can't. That's a problem. Like what value is there to having a 4-star or a 3-star or a 2-star or a 1-star if they can't actually do the content? And I think that's a problem that like a lot of other gacha games run into. And it's a problem that for the longest time, FGO didn't run into. And it's only been since they've started going like beyond 90+ that this has begun to be a problem. It's starting to be like every other gacha where only SSRs matter. Right, and I think that's a problem. I don't like that because it's one of the things that differentiates FGO from the pack. The fact that FGO is more character focused, and as a result, again, like if a new player comes in here, we tell them, well, yeah, but FGO is actually really good about allowing you to use the lower rarities. It's true until like now we're getting to this point where it's like at the high end, it's no longer true. So I don't like that. I don't think it's good for the game. I don't think it's good for your average like player, your free to play player, you name it, right? They're making all new units 4 stars and 5 stars. To be fair, they've like for a long time they've been pretty stingy on 3 stars and lower, like coming out with new ones. So I don't think that's like that big of a deal. But I will say again, like their lack of like keeping the rest of the roster up to date is a problem. And it's been a problem for years now. That's why like I'm excited to see them buffing a lot. They need to keep it up. I think if they skew things more towards the 90 plus nodes for benefits, it might work out for the lower rarities. Yeah. And this is a huge argument I get in with people because I know this is exactly where like the dev mentality lies as well. So I've gotten into arguments with people over like, well, okay, but do you have to do a 90 plus plus? And then like again, oh well, they maybe incentivize it, and then the idea being that, well, there needs to be some content in the game that incentivizes higher NP levels. Allow me to state my case, chat. I disagree. I don't think there really should be content in the game that necessitates it. If you want to be a whale and you want to flex and you want to get the node done like super efficiently, that's one thing. That is the way it used to be. But content that actually requires a higher NP level? No, I don't believe that should ever be the case because that's not how FGO ever has been. Ever. And it's only more recently been a thing where, again, you guys have heard me, I've started to advise people on like NP2s and stuff. I don't normally do that. I did not do that for years. And it's only been this content and higher that is pushing that. Okay, so this is where like a lot of that issue revolves around. Now, I'm gonna again say this once more for those in the back. You do not have to do 90 plus plus content. I have tried to ingrain that into you guys. 90 plus is still highly efficient, and given the fact that 90 plus is centered around 6 slot, aka 6 craft essences, as opposed to running 5 craft essences for the event, I'm going to tell you there's very little difference between those two. And sometimes the 90 plus is better, and sometimes the 90 plus plus is better. What is not in the dev's purview and then the dev's balance is 6C'ing the 90 plus plus. The devs don't anticipate you doing that. And this is a whale thing to do. And this is the most efficient the game can possibly be. And some people will sell out to do it. It's not what the devs originally balanced and intended, but it is the length that people will go to do it. And because some people can do it, it makes everybody want to do it. And because everybody wants to do it, the devs get to be the happy beneficiaries of all of that extra gacha revenue as people roll for the higher NP levels. So like, do you have to do it? No. But it's not going to stop people from trying. It's not going to stop people from thinking that they need to do it. And again, in general, people just look at it as like, oh, well, it's a 90 plus node, a 90 plus plus node versus a 90 plus node. Well, the higher rarity must be better, right? That's just how people think without even necessarily knowing. So there will always be that pressure to like, hey, can I do 90 plus plus? Always. That'll just always be the thing. That's just a psychology thing. Devs farming peer pressure? Yep. Quite literally. But yeah, like that's not the way the game used to be. I hate that it is turning into that. I don't think it should. And I think it's worse for the game overall that they have. I feel like drops in 90 plus plus nodes are also better. That is, I'm going to say that one's subjective. It really depends on what the node is, and it really depends on what you need. Because there have absolutely like for instance in lottos, like I've gone and done the 90 plus instead of the plus plus purely because of the drop in it. Yeah, it really just depends on entirely what your account desires. The weird part about this is too, and the reason that it is so subjective is because 90 plus plus will very frequently feature the newest mats. Which I'm going to go ahead and say means that you have, in theory, the least of them. However, contrastingly, you also need the least of them because they're new. There's just like, it's not like one of the old veteran mats that you need like 9,000 of. It's literally something that you're just like, I probably need like a couple hundred. So it's like, I don't know. You can look at that depending on how you want to like play the game or how you feel about it. But again, that's why there's so many different takes on this. So it's like, it just, some people feel like it's like, oh, well, I need to get ahead. I need to like jumpstart that. Other people are going to go, oh, I don't actually need that. I can wait and I'll get it like for free from events and stuff like that. So it's just going to be a difference of opinions and priorities, really. If you don't like the units that those mats are attached to, less reason to farm them. Yeah, I think to a degree, right? This is why, like, for instance, for me, I will probably not roll any of the Banner 1 Ordeal Call units on an A. I didn't roll them on JP either. So I'm just not really going to need a whole heck of a lot of the Ordeal 1 Call mats. Because again, it's one of those deals where it's like, well, it's a newer mat, and I'm not going to roll for the majority of the units that require it, so there's that. I like Bob just slinging names now. He's trying to get me. Eggs and shards are my current bane, and have been my bane, yeah. But no, like that's all it really is, right? So like, just as an example there, like for instance, yes, you can see like it's a newer material. I don't need as much of it, right? So it is what it is, and that's where again, like I can look at that sort of thing. I can say, hey, this is not a huge priority to me. It may be a bigger priority to other people, though. All right, chat. With all of that done, I got way too stun locked on comma there. Let us begin banner review. And by begin, I mean end, because we are literally down to the last 2 months, and I would like to get through it. I don't remember if... We didn't talk about that. That was not a thing. Okay, so I quite literally, yeah, we had the Grail front was the last thing. Oh god, man. Some of these have way more than I ever give them credit for. Okay. Hey guys, continuing on with our banner review again. We last left off here in November. And basically, we finished by talking about the Grail Front event that was going to be there at the end of October. Essentially, now here we will be going into the Ordeal Call campaign part 4. So there's going to be some interesting stuff here. Again, you're going to get more stuff added to the actual like Bleached Earth area. Again, new free quests and challenge quests are going to keep coming out. Again, just to kind of mention this, but as a more generalistic stance on the Bleached Earth and Stormpod quests, over time, you'll notice that there are like certain free quests that are available to you. Some of them are better than others. Some of them you're just going to like want to hyperfixate, and others you're just going to want to like completely ignore. As a result, this does mean that if you're like constantly using your Stormpods, especially if you get them when they first come out, that you are very much going to just keep like hopping from new campaign to new campaign in that regard. So like each time they come out with new free quests, it's going to be like, oh, okay, now I need to find the free quest I actually want to do from this group. Because again, you're going to sit there and you're going to be like, oh, wow, I'm actually getting so many materials from these nodes that I'm actually killing off some of the materials that I need. Just a good thing, at least from the player perspective, not necessarily from the dev perspective. But again, it's something to pay attention to, and so each one of these campaigns is going to have a new batch of them to watch out for. Again, there will also be challenge quests that will be released, and some of them can be really, really nice. You guys can see there are some limited time master missions attached to it, including more teapots and more of the ever necessary Stardust for the class score system. And then again, limited campaign master missions as well that just involve you guys clearing basically Ordeal Call. Again, more quartz given out for that. You're also going to get half cost, again, Bleached Earth, but Stormpod nodes basically, which is really a nice thing. Again, just mentioning this. This is something where now on JP we actually get half cost every time that we have an event, because a lot of people didn't like having to do their storm pods during events. I'm going to tell you, if you're concerned about that, you can still complete all the events on Nat AP and still use your storm pods usually completely without wasting any of them. However, you do need to be a little bit smart, and I'm going to say that because you are capped out on, again, 3 storm pods a day, but a total of 9 that you can ever hold at any given time, it gives you 3 days buffer room. So usually in the last like 2 to 3 days of an event, if you stop doing your storm pod nodes during that time and focus on finishing the event instead with all of your AP, that ends up saving you a little bit. So you want to go into an event without any storm pods available. You want to complete the event pretty much at max storm pods and then make sure you get them spent down before you would miss any of them. But that'll get you the most AP efficiency in the time that you are allotted. So that's usually how I managed to do it on JP. Again, I did them all on Nat AP. Sometimes I had to get a little bit creative, maybe taking longer than 3 turns in certain event nodes, but it is the way it is. And so again, this is why the devs made this a more permanent thing. But you can see this will just be for just this duration at this point in time. It's not a permanent thing yet as of here, so it is what it is. And then Arc 1 and Arc 2 main quests are going to be quarter AP. You're going to get some more Spirit Vein Stones added to the Da Vinci shop, and that's basically all it is. Now, on top of this, though, we get a summoning campaign, including Arjuna Altar. I believe I did already talk about him earlier in the year, but again, just a brief aside here. He is a very, very good AoE Buster Berserker. 30% charge. He can work in a double coin sky setup, be made to 3 turn from a 50% starting charge standpoint. He deals a crap ton of damage due to his ability to debuff enemies and then deal more damage to any enemy that is debuffed. And so again, he's a very, very strong AoE Berserker. There are going to be other units that kind of come out that challenge him, and other units that do obviously get upgrades. So again, it's up to you to determine if he's the one you want to roll, but he can be a good pickup depending on your account. Junako, on the other hand, is a permanent unit. I believe I did talk about her at Valentine's Day, but just in the chance that I didn't and my memory is failing me, she is at least a unit that is, at this point in time, made a little bit of a niche for herself. I do think that she's a lot better than she used to be, but she still kind of, to me, has a little bit of a weird sort of usefulness, in the sense that I don't really see much point in taking her unless I am playing into the niche that she has. And so as a result, I do feel like Janako's biggest sort of asset, and the big thing that the devs were always going for with her, was simply making her a permanent Moon Cancer option. Again, there are other ways to get a Moon Cancer, including from the Evocation Festival, so it is what it is. If you just desperately need one, the welfares are probably the way to go, but Janako can still be useful to you depending on the compositions you want to run her in, even though she doesn't necessarily strike you as maybe like a master of any particular trade. So again, she can be a serviceable unit at this point. Lakshmi, still a really interesting saber. She can now loop a little bit better thanks to her upgrades, and it is a good thing that she has it, but she also has buff success chance built into her kit, probably something that a lot of people forget, as well as a targetable heal and invuln, which I do believe can be nice as a like clutch thing. If you're worried about things happening, you could always try to put like a taunt C on her, have her give somebody else the invuln, and then kind of have her soak the damage and go down, but maybe distract for somebody else, or kind of help keep them alive by wasting a boss's actions. So it is a really interesting way to handle her, but again, she could be a decent farming saber for you or a decent challenge saber. It's totally up to you for how to use her. Asclepius is story locked. This is definitely a issue with him, as a lot of people really like him. He is a very fantastic unit, and he actually recently got a buff on JP that turned him partially into an arts unit, which is not to say that he didn't have an arts kit already, but realistically speaking, he didn't ascribe to any one particular card type as a support, whereas now he actually does do a little bit more for arts due to that upgrade. Still, it did address one of his major issues. I do think Asclepius is a unit that pretty much every account should probably try to get at least one copy of, because he is a very strong 3-star support. and so he can be a decent option for you, but I don't necessarily recommend rolling explicitly for Asclepius. Try to get him on a banner that you maybe want to roll otherwise. And William Tell is a permanent 3-star. Don't really need to say too much about him. He's an older unit, but again, I do think he's at least a decent single target arts archer. Maybe not my go-to or my favorite, but he is a decent option nonetheless. And as you guys can see, we also have the family portrait there. It is the LB4 commemorative craft essence. So if you want more copies of it, that could be a decent option for how to get it. Okay, so right here, looking at the event list here, now you can see we go into the 29 million downloads campaign featuring Melisson. We're going to get another login bonus here, another workshop Mana Prism Exchange update, which is just going to, again, re-release all of these basically into the shop again on top of your normal monthly ones that you purchase. And then same thing with the rare prisms as well. We're also going to permanently be getting Beyond the Night Without the Snow Flower. This one's going to be all HP scaling with friend points gained when using a friend support by 5 and bond point gain by basically 5% at MLB with 25 on the FP there when it is MLB. So, you know, I get a lot of questions about these. Are these like good to buy? For me personally, I do believe this set is actually pretty decent because, again, it's just giving you 5% of the base of whatever it is that you maybe want, like Bond or QP, depending on what is on the craft essence. And then the 25 FP can actually just be an okay thing for like, hey, I just want more FP over time. I'm going to say at the end of the day, some of the more recent ones that have come out, at least so far this year, the pattern JP's on has been better, but the ones that start coming out after this subset are very, very mixed stats. You start ending up with like 2.5% and stuff on a lot of them. And to me, those are not really worth. I don't feel like I've really ever used them or that like anybody really should bother purchasing them. But it can definitely be a thing if you don't have other options. But I'll certainly talk about that in the Rare Prism Shop Guide and Mana Prism Shop Guides. Taking a look at the fifth thing here, you guys could see it's the Recollect Essence update. So again, this is going to add new craft essences that you'll be able to purchase permanently in the shop. They had already started this in one of the prior download campaigns. And you guys can see this is going to be the return of Holy Night's Supper. Is absolutely a phenomenal one, as well as, again, Holy Maiden leading Chaldea, which can actually be pretty decent. And even something like his Rightful Place also can be due to the fact that it has starting charge. So depending on what you're going after here, I'm going to say, again, Holy Night's Supper, basically your better one out of all of these, but definitely some interesting ones to kind of think about grabbing if you have the spare mana prisms. There's also going to be daily missions, again, giving you a lot of faux pas prints, which is definitely good because you absolutely need more faux pas prints due to the fact that the rate they are given out is rather abysmal. And then you guys can see that we do get a game update here, basically talking about the update for those Recollect craft essences. And then a support selection new sorting feature here, basically allowing you to have craft essence priority whenever you sort for your, again, your friend supports and stuff like that. It's not going to be like, hey, I just want like Black Grails, but you can prioritize certain things like, again, QP up, Mystic Code up, Master Experience up. So that sort of thing is really nice. It will prioritize them and move them more towards the top. I really, really like that feature. I think it's a good thing. I can't wait for this sort of thing to come to NA. And then the summoning campaign. I don't remember if I've talked about Melisson, so we'll briefly talk about her here real fast. But again, Melisson, just pretty much still to this date. I do expect it might get challenged this year, maybe with some sort of upgrades that might come out. But Melisson is pretty much the unit that a lot of people, when they talk about Lancers and they say, like, you know, what Lancer should I roll? Melisson is pretty much going to be the first name off of everyone's lips. The reason why is because she is a god tier AoE Lancer at this point. She absolutely works from 0% starting charge, so she's able to touch Black Grail. She works really synergistically with Double Koyanskaya and Oberon, and so she really can do a ton of damage, especially with her stacking overcharge. She also can change her NP type, again, or basically her base NP form is actually a single target Lancer form where she is arts, and so that is also pretty serviceable since it keeps stacking NP gain every time you NP, allowing for easier and easier looping as a single target. So she is a unit that a lot of people tell people to roll for just from a bang for your buck standpoint, as it really ends up being again a good quality pickup for budget compositions, as she just really can do a whole lot of heavy lifting for any of your Lancer needs. So with that regard, I do think that Melisande, still to date, probably one of the best pickups as a Lancer. It's really difficult to try to really stump for anybody else other than her at the current point in time. We'll see what the devs do with that in the future, but again, as of right now, Melisande pretty much the king of the Lancers. And then we have Barkest over here as a story-locked 4-star AoE Buster Saber. Now, Barkest does have a deficiency compared to Gawain and Gareth's Saber, but that deficiency is purely that she can't bring Sunlight Battlefield on her own, and that is not that big of a deal because everything else that Gareth does is just phenomenal. Her damage is arguably her worst part, and that is partially the reason is that Sunlight Battlefield. If you bring somebody else like a Gawain or a Summer Gareth to change the battlefield for her, that can easily help. Or you could bring maybe another support that can just do it on their own that isn't one of the other sabers. So that is a thing. Again, Barkest, though, just a quality kit for being able to kind of stand around and out heal enemies and still be able to take them down and still be able to buff strip them and still be able to deal AoE damage. So there's quite a bit of good stuff going on in Barkest's kit. Highly recommend picking up at least one copy just because she's a very fun unit to play with, if nothing else. But again, she could be a really solid challenge saber for you, if not necessarily the best AoE damage outright. Looking at the rate up craft essences here, your 5-star, honestly, it's an interesting one in the fact that it's got arts and crit damage up and overcharge. It split stats though, and it basically doesn't have any starting charge. So to me, not necessarily the biggest of deals. I could see this being okay, but remember this portion of the craft essence is only going to work the one time. So once you NP with it just once, really it pretty much goes down to just these two effects being the ones that you'll be dealing with. Again, there'll be new craft essences here, sort of replacements for old ones. You can see you do have arts up here and critical damage against humanoids and NP gen, and then increasing healing received. So each one of these could be a decent option compared to their older counterpart. Taking a look, next up here we have the Evocation Festival Part 6. And again, this is going to be the return of basically your good old girl Cha-Cha here, as well as Sakamoto Ryoma and Nightingale Santa. So each one of these welfares is a pretty interesting one, I would say, in the sense that I think basically each one has a little bit of an issue. So first, before we talk about them, let's take a look. You guys can see Cha-Cha actually does get a strengthening. This does help Cha-Cha. However, it's not enough to really make Cha-Cha like stand out too much. This just brings Cha-Cha up to like usable status. Prior to this point, prior to this strengthening, Cha-Cha was, I hate to say it, so bad that you were pretty much better to use quite literally every other berserker besides her. So at this point, I'm very happy to see them actually give this to her. She could still use some more. But again, this does at least make her a decent option as an AoE berserker, especially given her being Buster. So that's really all I need to say about Cha-Cha in that regard. Sakamoto Ryoma gets his NP interlude here. It definitely helps out because, again, his biggest issue was basically that he also lacked damage output. He's a little bit more on the supportive side as an arts single target writer. He does do some nice stuff for the party, buffing their arts up and everything. So in that regard, Sakamoto did have some uses, especially given the fact that he does have charge. But the damage was always his biggest issue, so him getting the NP interlude definitely helped him out. You can see they also have some new permanent missions added here just for completing story to get Evocation Festival leaves, for buying the parts for each of the welfares. And then honestly, the best in this entire list is actually Nightingale Santa. She's not necessarily going to be your best looper or anything like that, but the real reason you're going to be using her is for more challenge content. Again, her kit is a little bit more supportive centered. She can definitely still take out a wave for you, but ultimately she's designed to kind of help somebody else stay alive and kind of keep the ball rolling. So in that regard, I do think she's a solid pickup, especially for a more free-to-play oriented account. It does give them options, so I think she's a very, very good unit to pick up from this list. And then taking a look at the summoning campaign, oh boy, is it a doozy, because we actually get the return of Mao Nobu. So again, I don't remember if I've talked about Mao Nobu already or not, but Mao Nobu is a pretty interesting case, as when she first came out, a lot of people were not very high on that horse. A lot of people were thinking that she was one of the worst SSRs in the game, which I disagree with. I don't think she was that bad as people made her out to be. But I am going to say that she definitely needed some work and had some disjointedness in her kit. Now, though, she's received multiple buffs, and she basically ends up being the hardest hitting AoE Buster Avenger in that regard, and even harder than some of the others like, Space Ishtar and stuff, assuming that she's, in her niches and everything like that going off. So I do believe that Mao Nobu is a classic example of, again, just like not judging the book by its cover and kind of waiting, because she did have at least the fundamentals of a pretty decent kit, and they have since buffed the ever-loving crap out of her, and man, is she strong now at this point. So again, she's a 30% charging unit that works in a double K and Skya setup nowadays. She has quite a bit of niches, anti-divine, anti-sky, so stuff that can even overlap with itself. So she can really do some solid damage numbers. Taking a look here, we have Sakamoto Ryoma as the other AoE Lancer here. Again, nothing too much to write home about. He's a 50% charging AoE Lancer. His damage is respectable, but it's nothing too much, again. And he can be a decent option for your AoE Lancer. However, I'm going to say a lot of people probably are just going to go with a better Lancer than him. I do think he is a decent option, but ultimately where I've found use for him is actually due to the fact that he gives party-wide overcharge, so that can be useful for things like an invincible comp situation, stuff like that. Again, you have OG Nightingale here. I believe I already talked about her back with Valentine's Day, so I don't need to talk about her again here. Nobu Berserker is an interesting 4-star single target anti-divine. Not really got a whole lot in the way of survivability, though. She does at least have a singular turn dodge, so that is something that's pretty nice. But after that point, oh boy, watch out. She's a very glass cannon Berserker. Okada Izo is a fan favorite. He is a interesting 3-star, especially given the fact that he is limited. So he's one of the very rare limited 3-stars. He's anti-humanoid, he's arts, he's single target. Again, he has some really interesting costumes, and a lot of the ladies like him. So up to you to determine if you want to go after him. But I will tell you, just be careful. 3-star limiteds can definitely hurt you for trying to get copies or coins. And then Nursery Crime here, aka the book, is basically an interesting AoE arts caster. She's never really been top dog for damage. She has gotten some upgrades that have helped her over the years, but ultimately, to me, she's still a little bit more in the like medium damage output. Works as sort of a like AoE that can loop and stall by draining enemies, but otherwise, I don't really use her too often because, again, I have harder hitting AoE casters than her. Here's your banner timings. You guys can see the pairings there. Izo's going to be paired with Sakamoto Ryoma. And again, Nursery Rhyme with Nightingale there. So pretty interesting pairings. If you're a Nobu fan, you can go for the double Nobus. And that is going to be Evocation Festival 6. Now we move on to Gura Gura Super Goryaku. Or Goryokaku, sorry. I butchered that. This one's going to be another interesting one. This is the Gura Gura event, and it basically is going to have a new welfare involved with it, as well as a new SSR. So real quick here, kind of looking through, again, you guys can see these are all of your new units. Quite a bit of stuff to review here. We're going to go over each one of them for you. So I'm just going to go ahead and open each one of them. And again, your event cards, your craft essences from the actual event. as well as your login bonus. And again, here, just to show you some of the other ones here. I'm not going to bother wasting time really going over each of them because I'll end up doing that when I do an actual event review. And then Hijikata is actually going to get a strengthening here. It's a rather good one because, as you guys can see, this does actually give him charge. This helps make him a lot more usable now. So, to me, a much better upgrade for Hijikata. And really, all of Hijikata, he's kind of come a long way from being a pretty, like, mid-berserker to now he's, like, all of his upgrades have been on point. Now he's a much more usable option for people. But essentially here, let's go look at the summoning campaigns. You guys can see there are 4 different ones. Before we start that, there is also a friend point campaign here. This is the return of Nobukatsu. So if you guys roll during the time period of the event, not only do you have the ability to roll out these craft essence fodder CEs that can actually help you with leveling other craft essences, but you also have Oda Nobukatsu you can get copies and coins for. So it's actually a really good time to gain coins for things like grail casting, especially once you get all of his needs met. Just remember, you do have a 4th and a 5th append coming, so that may be something to consider whenever you roll this sort of thing out. Looking at banner number 1 here, we have Takeda Shingen, who is going to be our newest SSR coming in here, as well as Nagakura Shinpachi. So, taking a look real fast at Shingen. Shingen's another interesting one in the fact that he is an AoE writer. And again, he is a very Buster-centric writer, if you couldn't tell from the deck. Again, he's actually not got that much in the way of attack, but it's not a huge concern. The biggest issue is that a lot of the other writers at this point in time have had a ton of upgrades. You can see his first skill actually is party-wide attack for 3 turns with cooldown reduction. And this is actually a super important thing because when we start adding the 5th append, you start to realize that this 6 turns becomes now 4 turns, basically, which is going to allow for a lot of interesting applications. The second skill here is going to be Buster Up for 3 turns of 30%, Charge of 50%, and Stars of 20. Now, due to this, and again, it being on a 6-turn cooldown, the 50% charge here with all of those cooldown reductions means that he is actually a unit that can work from a Black Grail starting point. Unlike, again, most of his other 50% charging contemporary peers, he's very similar to Erish Lancer in that regard, where basically the addition of the 5th append allowed them a much better starting point, which did definitely improve his damage output and gameplay. So I think he's a unit that probably a lot of people didn't roll for too much on the JP side of things for various reasons. And then now I think NA is going to get the benefit of foresight and kind of being able to see how JP has gone with that. So it is a thing where he could be a very decent pickup for you guys for AoE Rider. His third skill is also self-invincibility, 3 attacks, 3 turns, damage taken for 3 turns, and NP gen for 3 turns here by 30%. So again, nothing too crazy, but he does have hard survivability built in there as well. Taking a look at his NP, it's 8-hit AoE Buster, seals all enemies' NPs for 1 turn, activating first, then deals damage to them. And again, NP seal can be really nice, especially if you're expecting the enemy to like instant NP after a break bar or something like that. As long as they don't have a cleanse or some sort of debuff immunity, they're going to really help stop them. Overcharge effects here can, again, also be good. As you can see, he gets a tricolor buff, each one of them activating before the NP properly goes off, 20% each. So again, I don't think he's a very bad unit. I think he's pretty serviceable, but the biggest issue is that a lot of his competition has upgrades. That being said, the 5th append coming into the game, turning him into a Black Grail Looper, has definitely helped out those numbers. So he probably needs to be looked at under a microscope a little bit longer by the devs as to whether or not they feel like they need to buff him. Shinpachi is going to be your 4-star. He's, again, another interesting one. He's single target buster, basically. But as you guys can see, he's also got the Gorilla deck. His attack stat, A-OK here at 10k for a 4-star. HP, maybe a little bit more concerning. But yeah, the active skills, you can see, he increases his own burst performance for 3 turns, grants himself a buff on defense for 3 turns, so that whenever he takes an attack, he will gain 10 critical stars. And again, give himself guts for 1 status for 1 time 3 turns. His second skill here is just a hard evasion for 1 turn with defense up for 3 turns of a wonky 18%. Probably needs to be looked at. The weird percentages are something the devs have tried to do away with, but it is the way it is. His third skill here increases his own critical star absorption of Buster cards by 5,000%, which is enough to overcome his demerit being a berserker with really low star absorption. And then increase his own critical damage for 1 turn by a whopping 100%, as well as gaining even more stars. Again, all of this on a 4-turn cooldown means you can get back to this relatively fast, should you so choose. He also gets Madness Enhancement in his passes. His NP, as you guys can see, increases his own critical damage by 100% for 1 turn. So this will expire at the end of the turn that you use his NP, but it does mean that it will affect cards that happen after his NP. So again, doing like an NP Buster Brave chain with him is going to be really, really solid, as it does mean he will basically have 200% critical damage just in his own kit. And again, the ability to remove one enemy's evasion buff activating first means that as long as the enemy has not got like a fight specific gimmick where the evasion is in a, like white box, a border underneath the unit, you basically are going to be able to remove it, not pierce it, but remove it, which is really, really a nice thing for certain pesky enemies. However, I am going to say this hasn't really been a like super used thing over time. It could be something that you could definitely make use of, but you need to find the right situations for it. It'll then deal single target damage to the enemy, and then the overcharge effect is Buster up for 1 turn, activating first by a nice 20% there. So again, he's a pretty serviceable unit. There are other strong units out there, though, including welfares that basically are in the Evocation Festival, like Jerker. So I don't think he's a unit that you got to have by any stretch of the imagination, but he is absolutely the epitome of Buster Crit Man and Oonga Boongaing as a Berserker. And then basically that is your first banner. You also have it paired with Mori. Mori is very much a like just sort of fun card-based challenge unit. He's glass cannon, doesn't really have a whole lot of survivability, and as he keeps attacking enemies, he basically ends up giving himself defense down. I don't necessarily recommend it unless you're out for the challenge, but he is an interesting unit nonetheless. Taking a look at the rate of craft essences from rolling. Seaway Meteor Shower here is invuln pierced with crit damage and NP damage, so this is definitely a very solid one. Northern Willow is nothing really too much to write home about, and aside from the artwork on the 3-star, really nothing too much to write home about there either. Your second summoning campaign is the return of some old Guda Guda units. Hijikata, as we kind of had already mentioned, was a unit that has come a long way. He's Buster single target. He's a 1 HP memer, as I like to call him, which means that he deals more damage the less health that he has. And he now has guts that can stack with other sources of guts. He has charge. So he is definitely in a lot better spot than he used to be, especially if he can manage to get his health down. Okida is another interesting single target saber. She's quick. She basically has some of the best performing cards in the entire game, and her Shikuchi buff is interesting. The fact that it allows her flexibility to card both before or after her NP. However, basically it incentivizes you to card pre-NP to get the extra attack stacks on her NP. I do sort of dislike that because one of the ways that Okida was used for a long time was, again, as a unit that could NP, still deal a lot of damage, and then manage to kind of loop back to full just under cards alone. So sort of incentivizing people to use cards before the NP ends up hurting that. But it does mean you have options, and it does mean that you're basically just going to have to think about how to use her. Saito Hajime is still a very loopable single-target arts saber. Nothing too much more to say about him. People like him because he looks like Virgil, but that really is all it is. And then Mori added in there as well. Same CEs on rate up for banner number 2. Summoning campaign number 3, however, is the return slash, I'm going to say upgrade to Nagao Kagatora, aka Uesugi Kenshin. And Kenshin here is basically known by many names, but is a very famous character from Japanese history at this point. So Kenshin is going to return to us as a single target arts ruler. Definitely another interesting unit in that regard, because a lot of people are probably thinking, well, do I need a single target ruler? Kenshin is the game's first 5-star single target in that regard. And so at that point, a lot of people thought, well, but I have a really strong Estrella or Martha Ruler or something like that. Maybe I don't need her. Kenshin's damage is enough that she basically will outperform the likes of Estrella and such, assuming niches are not necessarily in play and everything. So it is an interesting thing, as she is already a unit that just immediately stands out for damage output. Her attack stats actually not too terrible. It certainly could be worse as a ruler, so it is an interesting thing, but she does trade some of her HP for that. Her NP gain stats not too terrible, and she does have at least 2 4-hit arts cards in the deck. Her, again, kit here basically starts out by giving her critical damage up for 3 turns of 30%, critical star absorption for 3 turns of 500, and evasion for 2 attacks 3 turns for some hard survivability. Her second skill here is arts up for 3 turns, self-charge of 50%, and critical stars every turn for 3 turns of 15. Her third skill is a targetable overcharge by 2 stages 1 time for 3 turns, increasing what that target's attack by basically 20% and their NP gen rate by 30% for 3 turns. So again, this one's probably going to get used on her more often than not, but it does at least have that flexibility if you need to use it on somebody else. Now, taking a look at the rest of the kit here, you guys can see the Noble Phantasm is 4-hit single target, and this to me is one of the big reasons to get Kagetora. She will remove all of one enemy's buffs whenever she uses her NP against them before the damage goes out. This makes her a very effective boss killer for a lot of things. However, just be careful, again, as we mentioned before, there are other times where, like, again, it's just a fight-specific gimmick and you can't remove the buff because it's got that white box or border around it. So just be very, very careful with that sort of thing. But yes, otherwise, this will absolutely just carve up enemies. It'll stop them from really being able to do anything to prevent your damage. So it is a really, really nice effect that she has on this. She'll deal damage to that enemy then, and then she will deal super effective damage against enemies that are man attribute, which is definitely an interesting niche for an arts unit. And then from there, her overcharge will also increase her arts up for 1 turn by 20%. So again, if you do have the 2 stages, you can get all the way up to the 30% here, but it is just the 1 turn duration, so it's not like it's going to keep stacking. Still, I do really, really, really like Kenshin in regards to how she is kitted out. I do like the fact that she is a boss killer. Her damage is very solid. And again, the buff stripping is just absolutely phenomenal for her. You have to roll her. Again, no, the choice is yours, but I do think she could be a very solid option for your account if you lack somebody that has that buff removal or anything like that. She could definitely be a good option for you. And with her being a ruler, she's just naturally going to be tanky. Again, same sort of CEs on rate up here. I actually ended up closing it out, but we didn't talk about the welfare. Saika Magoichi. Now, Saika is an interesting unit in the fact that she's basically going to end up being another archer welfare for you guys. Again, her being a welfare, you'll get her for free, you'll get all the copies, but this is an interesting thing because you guys look, the attack stat is sub 9k, the HP is, again, a little bit high for a 4-star at least, but certainly nothing really to write home about in terms of overall tankability. She's man attribute, she's got 0.75 charge, and she's basically going to be a quick archer for us. So keep that in mind, as that is part of the reason for the higher NP gain stat. She does at least have 2 quick cards with really good hit counts there, and again, still a singular arts card with 3. Her first skill here is ignoring evasion for 3 turns and party critical damage up for 3 turns by 30%, as well as critical star bomb here of 30. So that's really the big thing about this skill, is the sheer amount of stars it's going to grant you. The second skill is quicken buster up for 3 turns of 30% to each, as well as additional critical damage of 30%. So now she's up to 60. Her third skill is self-evasion for 1 turn, with the ability to draw attention of all enemies by self for 300% for 1 turn. So again, just your standard taunt language, including the increase of NP gen rate here when taking an attack by up to 50%. Now, remember, this is the defensive NP gain rate, so this requires her to take an attack. To me, you don't really necessarily want it, but at least it is on the same skill as her evasion. Be careful if you're going up against something with sure hit or invuln and pierce, or heaven forbid buff removal. It will absolutely carve you up, but otherwise, again, this is just going to send it basically into the void. And then it also is her charge skill of 20%, so you will have to be careful with how you use that, given the fact that it is also in conjunction with the taunt. Again, she does get item construction for some additional arts performance and critical damage on her arts cards. You guys can see the single target quick NP is a 10 hit NP. Quite the doozy there in that regard. Going to deal damage to one enemy and then reduce their critical attack chance by 20% for 3 turns. The overcharge effect increases quick and buster performance by 20% for 1 turn each before damage goes out. To me, Saika is just kind of an okay unit. I do feel like there's actually just better single target welfares than her for the archers. So to me, I do recommend going with probably either of those two over her. But given the fact she is this event's welfare and this will be coming out on an A, just go ahead and acquire her from the event. Don't wait for the Evocation Festival. She's still not a part of it. So again, you might be waiting for a long time as of the recording of this video. But again, free is free, so you'll always be guaranteed to get more for her in that regard. And that is Gurugura Super Goryaku. Or Goryokoku. I'm going to get that right one of these times. And that is all of the month of November. Remember, sometime in here as well, you'll probably get a little bit of a shift for Thanksgiving. We'll probably also get the Advent calendar and stuff announced for NA, as this will be sort of end of the year things that we're pretty much used to. And then back here, we also get a Christmas pre-release campaign. Nothing too much to write home about. They just basically ended up teasing who the welfare would be, as well as the quarter cost main quest campaign, more Spirit Vein stones, and that's pretty much it. Christmas of 2023 was an interesting one, and this is the first of our Christmas lottos that is actually a Christmas event, not a fest event, that is designed differently. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, normally the way old lottos for Christmas used to work, you started out with kind of 3 really crappy nodes, and then each day a better node would release until eventually you would end up with sort of the peak node at the end of roughly a 7-day period. You would from there end up having like 4 to 5 days usually to farm it, maybe if you're lucky an entire week, but that was usually the way it worked. And so a lot of people really hated this ramp up style because it basically meant that a lot of people waited until the end to actually farm it. This Christmas event, however, was not like that. This event instead had 90 plus nodes available the entire time. And then the final node about a weekend released that was 90 plus plus. So this does mean that right off the bat, you immediately had good nodes to farm. Maybe not like peak efficiency type deal, but pretty darn close to it. And so a lot of people were way more confident just going hard out of the gate and basically trying to get all of their goals accomplished early in the lotto, just as they would for a fest event lotto rather than Christmas. So again, this was a really, really nice change that they made. They did not continue that necessarily this year on JP with their Christmas event. However, due to a mishap on their end, we ended up getting the best node for the JP event way earlier than we were supposed to, due to, again, maintenance problems that they were having. But again, I would hope that they would continue this on in the future. This was probably my favorite Christmas event structurally in that regard. You guys can see we do have a summoning campaign as well as the welfare here. Just to briefly mention Nemo Santa. He's an interesting one. He is an arts looping AoE writer. And while you might be thinking, well, I don't really necessarily need that. Maybe I've got a really strong Habitat. Keep in mind, he's welfare too. So pretty much guaranteed to get him as long as you play the event. And in that regard, he can be a good serviceable option for you. I actually have had times that I've used him over, again, units like Habitrot. So again, he does have his benefits depending on what you're trying to do. He is Arts AoE, as we already mentioned. You can see he's got the 2 Arts cards in his deck. His first skill is Party NP damage, critical damage, and attack, as well as increases the attack of Group Servant allies for 3 turns, 20% on each of those, whereas the normal effects here are only 1 turn each. The Group Servant ally thing is 3 turns, so just be careful with how you use that skill. The second skill here is a self guts, basically of 1 time 3 turns, debuff immunity for 3 turns, which does have some nice challenge applications, and then charge his own gauge by 10% every turn for 3 turns, so he will at least automate some of the charge per turn there. His third skill is Arts Up for 3 turns of 30%, party evasion for 1 attack for 3 turns. So again, he's got that little extra party-wide protection deal. Again, you're probably going to be running him alongside the likes of Castoria and stuff, so it shouldn't be too big of a concern. But hey, you never know when you need a little bit more survival added to the comp. And there you go. Also, the ability to charge the entire party's gauge by 10%. Right now, you're probably thinking, well, he doesn't have that much charge. He doesn't really have that much NP gauge. He basically gets 10% per turn. He has 10 that he can do on command. Really not a whole lot. And you'd be right. However, he is a very fluid refunder. You can see he's got a 4-hit AoE NP. He deals damage to all enemies, skill seals them as well for the remainder of the turn, and then it deals extra damage to enemies with evil alignment. So it's super effective modifier, 150% there against evil alignment enemies. So he is a refund-based unit, which means he's going to be a little bit more beholden to the structure of the node, but he can easily loop from 0, especially if you support him right. And again, the super effective damage against evil alignment is just really, really solid for him. So, like I said, I have had times where I've actually used him over a Habitrot, particularly in the last Christmas event, as he was a bonus unit, so I managed to use him to loop over some of the nodes. So again, he can still be a decent option for you. I wouldn't overlook him. Definitely make sure you grab him, but he's not necessarily going to be like your strongest rider or anything like that. Taking a look at the summoning campaigns, we did get Nemo on the summoning campaign. I believe I did talk about Nemo back during Chaldea Boys. He is a decent single target arts rider. He does have quite a bit of charge baked into his kit, but ultimately he's not normally people's first choice. He does have anti-void space and anti-waterside battlefield in his kit, but the waterside battlefield's the one he ends up using a lot more. So I do think he's an interesting unit. He is pretty serviceable. He can be your go-to rider for single target needs, but he's not one that a lot of people do end up going after. Nautica here on the banner is actually a pretty interesting one. It's a all attack scaling, pretty rare, ignores defense CE. It does have Buster Up and NP gain rate there, so definitely an interesting and odd combination. Otherwise, the other two here, not necessarily anything much to write home about. Campaign number 2 is Breedomart here. So again, her return from basically Morgan Fest of the prior year. She's another interesting one. She's a limited AoE quick lancer. Her biggest issue is, again, sort of some of the titans in that class, like Melisande. So to me, she's not necessarily going to be your highest damaging unit there. She does have the anti-rider niche, which is rather interesting. So you can use her effectively. She can be a Black Grill Looper nowadays due to the buffs that she's had. So I do believe that she is a stronger unit now than she used to be when she first released on JP. But I do believe that she's a unit that you don't have to acquire. Still, it's up to you to determine if you want to roll for a unit like this that's a little bit older on this point. And again, a unit that probably is due in maybe for some more attention, but we'll see. Summoning campaign number 3 is BB Summer and the Return of Ashvataman. So BB Summer is another really interesting one. I believe we've talked about her before, but she's the only one that can basically allow you to card lock your cards in the entire game. She's 50% charging, AoE Buster based Moon Cancer. She also has AoE Drain baked into her kit and a little bit of survivability with both healing and evasion. So again, she does have quite a bit there. But to me, the card lock is the big reason that a lot of people use her. It is probably the most fun aspect, but can also be the most frustrating aspect if you don't end up getting the cards that you want. Just again, up to you to determine if you want to actually roll for her. There are other ways to get various versions of BB, including some via the Evocation Festival. Ashvataman, on the other hand, is a story-locked single-target Buster Archer. He does have a little bit of charge baked into his kit, and similar to Hijikata, he is a 1 HP memer, which means the less health he has, the more damage he does. The biggest issue you're going to have is getting him to the low health. He does at least have guts baked in, but again, that is something to worry about, at least to an extent. And otherwise, I do believe his card performance is pretty interesting, but Hot Wheels is not necessarily everyone's go-to archer or a unit that you have to have by any stretch of the imagination. Coming in campaign number 4 is an interesting one, as it is Ashvataman again, but it's also OG Scotty here. Now, OG Scotty is another interesting one when compared to her ruler counterpart. That is the more newer version of her that's arguably better. OG Scotty has had an upgrade to her NP, though, that has given her quite a bit of attack scaling on it. The biggest issue is getting her to her NP. She does actually have survivability compared to her ruler counterpart, who is decidedly more offensive than her. But again, she can be an option as a unit for more challenge-oriented content, or maybe just a triple Scotty setup, of which some units do work better with that as opposed to double Scotty and Oberon. So again, it's up to you if this is a unit you want to acquire. I do recommend eventually acquiring both Scotties, but it's up to you. This does give you options if you have both, particularly in the face of things like friend supports. And we also get the Friend Point campaign that has the return of Mary Anning. Similar to Nobukatsu, you're also going to get fodder CEs here. Mary Anning came out with the Mississippi event basically last year on NA, and essentially she is making her grand return at this point, which a lot of people were concerned that she would maybe never have other opportunities. So at least they brought her back. This would be your ability to get more coins, more copies of her if you missed them the first time, or really just more coins even for Grail casting if you just kind of want a little bit more. Just keep in mind, this is going to be during a lotto, so it is what it is. A lot of people will be a lot more focused on the lotto than anything else. And that is actually your last event for the year, but just quickly touching on some of the other campaigns here. We have the Satellite Station campaign for Kyoto. Don't really expect NA to get this. They did have some login bonus and a commemorative CE. Who knows? Maybe we get something similar, but they may just end up finding another excuse to give that sort of thing out. They also revealed some of their New Year's info here, but again, that's not for this year, so we don't need to go over it. And basically, they also had the New Year's special broadcast, basically, that they had announced they were going to give out, again, more apples and a ticket there, essentially for people that have cleared story, as well as celebrating the Fate project. And there you go. So other things like basically free quest first time clear at half AP, again, being a thing. All interludes and strengthenings at half AP, a very rare occurrence as of the current point in time on JP. I believe this will be maybe the last one that they actually get that is all of them. Because again, I have a ton of them stacked up on JP, and they have not given an all interludes and strengthenings in a while. And then all advanced quests, also half AP, is an extra sort of please complete your advanced quests incentive. So if at that point you still don't have them all done, feel free. But they also did pair this with another advanced quest release here at the end, as they essentially wanted people to, again, get more stuff done. You can see there are 3 available quests here, including a Lanugo CE, a Proof CE, and a Fang CE. So again, it is what it is. I believe this will be MLB of the Fang CE and the Proof CE if you haven't already done them. Let me just quickly double check that here real fast. Not the Proof one. The Proof one will be part 18. So this will be MLB of the Fang CE is part 17. So you will be getting 3 different MLB CEs this year from your advanced quests. So I highly recommend you guys catch up on them if you haven't already. And that will be it for 2025's banner review. was a lot shorter than last year, so I'm definitely a lot more pleased with how this one went compared to the prior ones. But again, I hope you guys found it informative. Let me know what you guys think, and which banners are you looking forward to rolling for? I'll be curious to hear you guys' thoughts, and I will see you guys for the next video. Good luck with all of your rolling in 2025, and may the courts be with you. Oh. Well, we did a chat. Mm. Mm. I think I think my tongue is like getting a sore on it. Like a cold sore or something. Congrats. Yeah, I'm happy because that was basically like what, like maybe 2.5 full streams as opposed to like last year, chat. Chat, last year was like 2 whole weeks. Like 2 whole weeks of like streams. Like, oh my god. I'm gonna talk about Takaru. He technically comes out in 2025. Liar. Liar. No, he definitely does not. I don't have to talk about him. Or her. They. But yeah, that's basically all there. You see, it was 2023 that he came out basically for NA, because he came out a day earlier for NA, as opposed to JP that was their January 1st. So he will come out for our January 1st as well. I mean, it's 12/31, right? That's what I'm saying. He doesn't come out 12/31 for our server. He did for JP for those of us here in the States due to the time gap, but that's all. But yeah, no, I'm very, very satisfied to have that done. That one's like, out of all the ones that I do every single freaking time, like every New Year's I end up doing like my beginning of the year videos. That one's always the biggest. That one's always the doozy. I hate it. I absolutely hate it in that regard. Just because it drags on. Like, I do like going over it. It definitely helps me. It also like helps me inform you guys. So it's a necessary thing. It's a good thing. I'm happy to do it. But my God, like last year was awful. And I never want to go through last year ever again. You guys can let me know what you think about this, especially once we get it all said and done and get it like edited and put out on the YouTube channel. But like, man, they could absolutely be better than that. That's to me, I'm just happy that this was a much more clear and concise how do you put it, like round at this point. Chat, I was probably going to stick around for a little bit, but I'm actually feeling like super tired now at the end of this, so I think I'm going to actually end here. Just end a little bit early tonight, get myself some rest, because I'm actually going to need to anyways, and I got stuff I got to work on for various things here before I go to bed, so we're going to go ahead and end it here for tonight. I'll be back for tomorrow because we have the NA live stream tomorrow for, again, the launch of 7.2. But we will find stuff to work on for tomorrow as well. Let me see who all is on tonight. Who all we can give some love to. Let me actually send you guys over to Miss Ivy because I have not gotten to raid her in a hot second. Again, I will see you guys for the next one. Go give Miss Ivy my love, and trying to think if there's anything else I need to say. No, I'm pretty sure that's it. So again, get your raid emotes ready, and I'll see you guys on the other side. Thank you guys for watching. Have a good one, and again, good night.